Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the temporary Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. Okay, so we've had quite a few leaks lately, and now this one appears to be an actual card. I mean, not that the other ones aren't actual cards, but this appears to be a confirmed card. Yeah, I believe that this one's an actual spoiler. Kethek, let's go with that. Crucible Goliath, a 4/4 Phyrexian beast that costs 2 black and a red. Beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do reveal cards in the top of your library, you'll reveal a non-legendary creature card with lesser mana value put on the battlefield, then put the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order. So, when I first saw this, I was like, oh, that's neat. And then I was like, wait, there's a deck that I have been wanting to build and perfect for such a long time. I have attempted it before. It didn't really work out as well as I wanted it to. I mean, it works fine, but this is the commander, I believe, to lead the charge for that deck finally. And I will tell you exactly what that deck does here in a little bit. But yeah, of course, the potential for this commander isn't just, hey, Mitch's janky deck that he's been dreaming of for so long. It's got the potential to obviously allow you to take advantage of, well, first up, death triggers. If you've got a creature that has a death trigger, sure, sacrifice it. Go get another creature that might have maybe an ETB trigger. So you can really get some powerful things off the top of your library and into play. It's kind of like a polymorph effect, but again, with a requirement of it not being, a legendary creature, and then also lesser mana value. So you can kind of play with that because obviously there are still some legendary creatures you can utilize, and actually for the strategy for my deck, I am going to be doing that. That being said, I think the vast majority of decks built around this are probably going to be like, hey, a lot of non-legendary creatures that are, well, very powerful, and also maybe ones that you can get back, and also ones that, again, maybe have some very powerful ETBs, LTBs, etc., etc., etc. So, yeah, this commander has a lot of potential. It's a really cool, interesting direction for Rakdos. Again, we have seen kind of like a polymorph commander, or polymorph commanders in more so blue, essentially. But now, hey, Rakdos gets a shot at it with the, kind of chaos aspect of that. And I really enjoy that. Now, all the cards I'm going to be talking about on this episode, I'm going to have a link in the description below to those cards. I'm going to be going through some budget buys. And with those, the cards that I'm considering for my build. Then there's going to be some pricier picks as well, which obviously are outside of my build, cards that are above $1. So those are going to be cards that are more just going to be generally good with this commander and not necessarily, ones that would fit well in my specific build. Now, with all that said, let's jump into it. So what is kind of weird about the direction that I do want to take this deck is, well, it can really go in two completely separate directions. I mean, basically doing the exact same thing, but two basically separate decks. I mean, I really could just build two decks around this because I would be utilizing cards like Grey Merchant of Asphodel or Fanatic of Mogis. Not both in the same deck, just essentially one or the other, and the entire deck would focus on one of these awesome cards. Grey Merchant of Asphodel, better known as Gary, a 2/4 zombie for 3 black, so 2 devotion right there, and you'll see why devotion is important, because when it enters the battlefield, each opponent loses X life for extra devotion to black, you gain life, your life lost this way. So the more and more black pips you have in play, the more you drain your opponents, and the more life you gain. And yeah, with an entire deck built around this, what we want to do is build up our devotion as much as we can. Now, our commander does help, a little bit just with 1, and still, even just at that level, right? I mean, that's drain all 3 opponents for 3, gain 3 life. Yeah, that's nice, but we are going to be making this into a very, very deadly thing because we're going to fill the board with a ton of devotion, and of course, we're going to have ways to use and abuse this to make sure we get that trigger again and again and again. Now, obviously, the other direction is Fanatic of Mogis. Hey, enters the battlefield, deals damage to each opponent equal to your devotion to red. So again, has to be a completely different deck, essentially, because one of them is going to obviously, devote itself to black, one will devote itself to red, and you want to get the most out of them. You don't want to really, split it. So yeah, maybe just have 2 separate decks around these two. Maybe I'll do that. Who knows? But yeah, with each of these, though, obviously make sure you're considering cards like, damage doublers. Any ways to double up your damage for Fanatic of Mogis, or ways to double up life lost with Grey Merchant of Asphodel, like Warlock class. There are ways that you can really take advantage of these. And of course, again, with this kind of a build, you really need to be careful because I kind of probably should have mentioned this, but yeah, when you're polymorphing into these, in order to ensure that you hit them, well, you need to have exactly 1 non-legendary creature in your deck. And that would be, again, either Grey Merchant of Asphodel, Gary, or Fanatic of Mogus. If you have other ones, you might hit the other ones, and you want to make sure that you hit this one, whichever one, every single time. Now, keep in mind again, when you are doing this kind of weird polymorph thing, again, it does not count legendary creatures. So you can use legendary creatures in the deck still, and you're going to kind of polymorph over them. You're just going to keep, going. You see a legendary creature like, oh, well, I don't get that in play. So yes, you can take advantage of that and utilize creatures like Geth or Tali Primal Storm to essentially, be a sacrifice piece of fodder for your ultimate plan of actually getting to that, Grey Merchant of Asphalt or Fanatic of Mogus. Geth Lord of the Vault is a 5/5 zombie with Intimidate. It also has pay X and a black, put target artifact or creature card with converted mana cost X from opponent's graveyard on the battlefield under control tap. Then the player mills X cards. So this one can actually get you other creatures that you might want to sacrifice as well. Of course, maybe you've got some ways to shuffle back in, Grey Merchant of Asphodel or Fanatic of Mogus, so you can get them again and again and again. Tali Primal Storm, just a good card as well. Again, make sure you're considering, again, cards that have a decent amount of devotion. Each of these have 2. Tali Primal Storm, when it attacks, exile the top card of each player's library, they may cast any number of spells among those cards without paying their mana cost. This is just a lot of value, and again, maybe you hit some creatures off the top from your opponents that you can then use to sacrifice to keep your plan going. But yeah, speaking of plan, get a lot of devotion into play. And so cards like Unrolled Dreams and Seismic Assault can really help with that. Again, depending if you're going mono black or mono red, essentially. Unrolled Dreams, hey, black, 3 mana for 3 devotion. Again, that's 3 extra life loss for your opponents and 3 extra life per each opponent gain. So it's 9 life essentially gained with Gary coming into play. It also can punish your opponents further. Whenever the opponent draws a card, Unrolled Dream is going to deal 1 damage to that player. Seismic Assault, red. Again, 3 mana for 3 devotion, 2 red for that Fanatic of Mogus. Discard a land card, Seismic Assault deals 2 damage to any target. So again, even more punishment, ways to kind of just reach and take out that player. Fell into the Third Path. This is another legendary creature that, again, we can polymorph over, essentially, and one that can really help us out because, well, first up, that's 2 devotion, which is nice. Also, pay 2 in red, tab, create tokens, copy a target creature card in your graveyard, accepts an artifact just to other types, gains haste, sacrifice will be the next end step. So what will happen, after we get Fanatic of Mogus out? Maybe we'll, sacrifice to get into our graveyard. We maybe have some ways to reanimate it. Or, yeah, we can just, keep utilizing Fell in the Third Path to make token copies of it to keep pinging our opponents further and further and further. Yeah, there's some really exciting plays that you can have with a deck like this. In a somewhat similar way for Gary, we've got Chainer Dementia Master. Now, this one's a little more risky in a way. A 3/3 minion legend that has all nightmares get +1/+1. Nice. Pay black, pay 3 life. Put target creature card from a graveyard into play under your control. That creature is black. It is a nightmare addition to other creature types. When Chainer Dementia Master leaves play, you're going to exile all nightmares. So, yeah, you do need to be a little bit careful because obviously you don't want Gary to be exiled if that's your entire, game plan, essentially. But this is a great way to get Gary back. And yeah, you can do it multiple times as long, again, as you keep Chainer in play and you don't lose out on your Gary. Also, when it comes to getting creatures back, yeah, you can really use and abuse that ETB, with either Fanatic of Mogus or Gary with Undying Malice. Until end of turn, target creature gains when this creature dies, turns to the battlefield, tap to its owner's control with a counter on it. Nice. So yeah, basically, hey, kind of like, a blink spell-ish in a weird way for Rakdos. I mean, obviously the creature needs to die, but you got ways to sacrifice it, maybe like a Village Rites, or if the opponent tries to deal with it. But of course, you also do have, a blink spell with, Voyager Staff. It's a, blink artifact, essentially. Pay 2, sacrifice it, exile a creature, return to the battlefield, under its owner's control the next end step. A great card for a deck like this that really wants to use and abuse an ETB. Of course, there are other ways to do so as well. And yeah, maybe you only need to actually, utilize that ETB a couple of times once you're set up properly, once you have enough devotion to take your opponents out. Now, when it comes to pricier picks, again, cards that are out of my budget, again, more than $1, cards that I cannot consider for my, well, somewhat janky, again, either Gary build or Fanatic of Mogus build. Regardless, cards that can work very well with this commander in a lot of scenarios are cards like Grave Titan, Runescar Demon, and Dockside Extortionist. Grave Titan, hey, great ETB, enters the battlefield or attacks, you get 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. Yeah, that can be very powerful. Runescar Demon enters the battlefield. Tutor, go get anything. Go get anything from your library, put it directly into your hand, so get the right card that you need for the situation that you're in. And of course, Dockside Extortionist. Yeah, that thing is overpowered. Enters the battlefield, you get extra tokens, direct number of artifacts, and enchantments your opponent's control. So yeah, even a, obviously, lower to the ground creature that doesn't have, a huge mana value can definitely be very impactful in a deck like this, especially when it's got a very impactful ETB. And some would say maybe even a ban-worthy ETB, but that's a different discussion for a different day. Moving on, how about Ancient Stone Idol? Now, this is one of those kinds of creatures that you can really consider for kind of upping that level of, converted mana cost on the battlefield that you can sacrifice, because again, keep in mind when you are doing this weird polymorph thing, you are getting a lesser mana value. So if you get something out there that's pretty big, you've got the potential to get something massive, kind of like cascading in a way. Anyways, Ancient Stone Idol. It does cost 10 mana, but it's going to cost 1 less cast for each attacking creature and has flash. So, yeah, if your opponents are attacking a lot of creatures, or I guess you can even do it if you're attacking a lot of creatures, you can cast this for a lot less. A 12/12 with trample, and when it dies, you get a 6/12 with trample. So, yeah, this has a lot of potential for you, and again, can just really set yourself up for a big play. Speaking of setting yourself up, Terror of the Peaks, hey. Well, first up is a 5/4 flyer. That's nice. If your opponents cast spells that target it, they have to pay an extra 3 life to do so. And then on top of that, yeah, just a little thing right here. Whenever the creature is battlefield under control, Terror of the Peaks is going to deal damage equal to that creature's power to any target. And you can have some really heavy hitters. You're going to have a lot of creatures entering the battlefield. You get basically a War Storm Surge trigger on this as well. That can deal a lot of damage to your opponents throughout the game. Speaking of punishing your opponents, though, Massacre Worm, 6/5. Yeah, that's nice. Enters the battlefield, creature's opponent's control get -2/-2 until end of turn. Even nicer, but the nicest thing, whenever a creature opponent controls dies, the player loses 2 life, wipe out your opponent's small creatures, drain them for a ton, and then yeah, if any of the other creatures die throughout the game while this is in play, drain your opponents further. And finally, when it comes to triggers, well, we have a lot of ETBs and LTBs that we've already talked about, and of course we can double up on those triggers with things like, Stranic Resonator, or Lithoform Engine, or Flame Shadow Conjuring. But also with Stranic Resonator and Lithoform Engine, keep in mind they can also copy a ability like our commanders and copy that trigger. So yeah, if we want to sacrifice multiple things, we can do so. Stranic Resonator, pay 2 tap, copy target triggered ability, control 2 targets for the copy. Again, ETBs, LTBs, your commanders, end of turn trigger essentially. Lithoform Engine, pay 2 tap, copy target activated or triggered ability control, and then 3 and tap and copy an instant sorcery, 4 and tap, copy a permanent spell you control. There's a lot of potential for a card like this and can help you out in a lot of scenarios. Flame Shadow Conjuring, this one actually can really help you out as well, especially with those creatures coming into play, especially with those powerful ETBs, and especially with ones that can hit hard when they swing. Whenever a non-token creature is battlefield under control, you may pay red. If you do put a token on the battlefield to copy that creature, token gains haste, exile being the next end step. Just think about the potential with this in something like, I don't know, Massacre Worm? Yeah, Massacre Worm, again, enters the battlefield, your creature can hit -2/-2 until end of turn. You double that up just by paying a single red mana. You're getting another 6/5 that does that, so your opponent's creatures are getting -4 in total, so more of the creatures are going to get taken out, and when they do, again, they're going to get drained for every single one of those creatures, not just 2 life, but 4 life now because of that double worm. So yeah, doubling up on our powerful creatures can definitely be a very powerful thing. Yeah, overall, I bet most players out there aren't going to be like, oh, I see this new commander. You know what? I'm going to build an entire deck around Gary. Or, Fanatic Amogus. I haven't decided yet. Maybe I'll do both, but yeah. Players, I think, for the most part, are going to be like, yeah, cool. I mean, basically, polymorphing into some massive creatures, massive ETBs, massive effects, massive death triggers. There's a lot of very powerful things that you can do with this, a lot of exciting things that you can do with this. And again, if you are interested in, any direction with this commander, make sure you check out that card list, link in the description below. And with that, today's episode is coming to a close, so yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on it. And of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.